I am standing in what was originally called Madman's Gully. In 1853, this was a very rich goldfield that started the Beechworth gold rush. Imagine this place 170 years ago, covered in tents, in fossicas, panning all along the creek here, and other miners rocking sluices for gold. Smothered in people, all mad for gold. The Beechworth Asylum is just over the hill here, but that's not how this place got its name. 13 years before the asylum opened, early one morning, a real ring-dinger of a fight broke out amongst several of the miners here, fighting over staking out of claims and so forth. And a guy ran out of a tent with a shovel and chased them all off. And he was naked. And after that, it was called Madman's Gully. The Beechworth Motor Club formed a club in 1968 and built a dirt track here in what is now known as Silver Creek. This was part of the main straight. This used to be the Hairpin Bend. By 1972, an incredible 73,000 litres of sump oil had been deposited on the dirt track to consolidate it. But in 1976, the Environmental Protection Association, the EPA, banned that practice Australia-wide. So that was probably one of the most major reasons for the closure of this track, along with perhaps competition from other nearby tracks. But the finer details and the exact date of the closure aren't really known. There were basically only really two significant corners on the track. It was two long straights with slight kinks in it, with the hairpin at one end and this Downs corner at the other. The first time I saw a Peterbock race here was in the Austin A30 with a 186 red motor that he could basically rest his arm on while he was driving. He beat the pants off one and all. 4 of us drove to Beechworth there that day in an FC Holden. There's still some remnants of the banking on Downs Corner where the cars would have gone right up the top. I'd like to thank local car historian Graham Hawkins for getting me access to this property and walking me around it, because it's basically a swamp. It's probably been that for 50 years or more, and if I just busted in here, there's no way I would have been able to work out exactly where the track was. So thanks, Graham, appreciate the help. This has turned out to be a much bigger track than I thought, from judging by Google Earth and a couple of drawings of the track. This is where the start-finish line used to be. The lap record here, the final lap record, was held by a supercharged Holden Monaro with a time of 43 seconds. And I can tell you, having walked around this track, 43 seconds, he would have been going like steam. Speedway racing began here at the Albury Showgrounds in 1965. Things started off really well. 4 race meetings were held, and then the Melbourne promoter disappeared with all the money, and that was the end of that. It's now the trotting track, strictly 1 horsepower at a time. You will find the detailed history of 150 defunct car racing venues in my new book, Birthplaces of Australian Motor Racing. 410 huge A4 pages, crammed with the personal anecdotes and experiences of the people who raced these tracks. Easy to read, very large font. the most comprehensive and lavishly colour illustrated work on this subject ever.
Drivers, start your engines!
Time to drop the hint. Today, that is sadly all that remains of the Granite Park Speedway's start and finish control tower. This speedway had two big things going for it right from when it started in 1971. First of all, Puckapunyal Army Base is only a few kilometres away, and the place was packed with young guys who loved to race cars. And secondly, the ex-army land on which the track was built is comprised of a natural granite surface. So they didn't have to bring in gravel to make the track, it was already here. Seymour was one of those typical country speedways where you could park your ute with a lounge in the back up on the spectator mounds and see all the action in comfort. This is the exit of Turn 1. Over the decades, Granite Park grew and grew until eventually they were well enough established to host a round of the USA versus Australia Grand National Championship Series. And my pre-teen son James and I parked our Mini there and sat on the roof, buckling it, to watch the cars. By this stage, the cars were racing in the conventional anti-clockwise direction. But when this place started, they used to run in a clockwise direction. And the cars would disappear down the bottom there. There's quite a bit of rise and fall in the land here. It's not dead flat at all. It's got a slope to it. And they disappear around the back, go behind a couple of trees in the middle and up the back straight, and then they'd explode back out into view with a whole lot of noise. It was a fantastic track to sit and watch because you could see most of it. This place survived until 1997 when the last 10 members couldn't pay the insurance on the place. A number of people hoped and tried to see if they could get the place restarted, but it's so far gone now, as you can see, and with today's modern speedway regulations, it would literally take millions and millions of dollars to bring this place back to life again. And the people who own the land, the Army, still have made it clear that they don't want racing back here anymore. Granite Park was far more than just a basic oval. It was a long, elongated one, and it had some sharp bends in it. Behind me is the dam where they used to get the water to keep the track damp. This is the old canteen in the pits, where people used to come in through the steel bars, line up to get their hot food. Look how large the radius is on this turn that went past the pits. I think somebody left a bit of their Tirana behind. In walking right round this track, I've been reminded of just how much rise and fall there was in it. Way more than any other speedways that I've certainly seen. Some big height changes. coming past the tower and dropping right down, I'd reckon dropping down 20 metres and then going around the back straight with a kink in it, heading towards the bottom corner and going downhill again, and then around and heading up to the control tower and a climb again. Would have been a really great track.